Hey, my tech friends, thanks for stopping by. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's continue to grow this channel. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Hey guys, welcome back to Ghost 10. So on this particular system, we're on the 22H2 variant, not the 20H2 variant. This is the operating system that we did the test with, specifically for the installation of Ghost Spectre 10 22H2. And we also looked into the security, how to secure it, how to lock it down. We went through all that process already. We've run our Nessus scans on it. But the question is how does it function as a daily driver? Can we install applications on the system and run them? Can we run all the updates on the system for the Windows Update portion of the OS to make sure that the OS actually does have the latest build updates? Can we use this operating system? Can it be a daily driver? Or are there limitations limiting facts to the operating system? Let's jump into this and take a deeper dive into the application portion of Ghost 10. So the first thing I want to start with this operating system is this screen here. Now, if you didn't catch the previous video on our securing of these operating systems, I'll put those links in the description, but specifically we secure the X-Lite 10 system as well as the Ghost 10 system pretty much simultaneously to go through the process configuration on actually executing security on these systems, because neither one of these systems, the X-Lite 10 or the Ghost 10 22H2 system, did any good in our scans. They were worse than if you just used a vanilla copy of Windows 10. Windows 10 out of the box was more secure than either of these two operating systems. And you would question, well, how could that be if we've removed portion of the operating system? And the truth is that even though they moved portions of the operating system, they didn't take any steps to securing the system after removing the portions of the operating system. So they still Swiss cheesed the firewall. There was still configuration. They had associated applications and tasks running in the background that were pointing to nowhere, that were just chewing resources for the sake of chewing resources. But the reason why this screen is open is because right out of the box, the Defender application for your antivirus, for your intrusion detection, is broken. The tamper protection and the intrusion detection is broken, and there's no way to turn it on. So even though we see it, I mean, I could sit here until I'm blue in the face and click on this, and it does nothing, because the portion of the operating system that controls that button in the registry doesn't exist. It was removed. And even though you have the option on installation to re-add it so you have Defender controls, it doesn't actually work. It's not actually present. So just something to keep in mind then is if you're running the Ghost 10 version of the operating system, version 22H2, you do not have tamper protection, intrusion detection, and your smart screen does not work. So those are things to keep in mind, because you're going to want an antivirus and not the Defender version. In all honesty, when you do the installation, choose to not install it with Defender. So no Defender, and then just install an antivirus. You'd be better off, because right now this is running as a service in the background. And while I could disable it all out, the thing is there's portions of it missing, so it's not really doing anything. So with that said, we have Super Anti-Spyware installed on this system. That's our antivirus. For the sake of this particular system, I'm not going to go through the reinstallation and remove the Defender options. I'm going to leave it just as it is. But if you're running or choosing to run this operating system on something that you own, don't install the Defender. It's a waste of time, resources, and energy, because it really literally does nothing in the background. Okay, so we have an antivirus installed. And I was told that the Ghost Toolbox will work once we connect the system back to the internet. So let's connect the system to the internet and let's run the Ghost Toolbox. Okay, so this machine is back on the internet, reconnected to the outside world. Let's run the Ghost Toolbox and see what we get. Okay, so we get options or configuration options. Let's see specifically if there's something in here that maybe we want to use to install. So since it doesn't come with a browser, now I know that there's been questions and statements in the past on both this and the X-Lite system saying that the browsers are pre-installed. They're not. They exist in an executable you could run, but all it is it's just the stub that actually downloads it directly from the internet, which you could get anywhere from any machine to do the same thing yourself. So there's no reason to run those. on the actual system. With that said, there is no browser installed on any of these systems. So that's something to keep in mind, that you will need an internet connection so you could download the browser to the machine through the toolboxes that exist, or to just simply grab them from another machine and copy them over. That's something necessary. But for the sake of this, just to seeing if this actually works in this particular operating system, let's run number 13 for Firefox. So it did download it, did install it. It was a little slow, but that could be because I got a bunch of stuff going on in the background right now on this machine as well. So we're just going to skip all these steps and get into this. So it does work to download your, I guess, your browsers, your installers. I do see that there's modifications that you could add in here as well, like tweak, fixed, cleaner, and other. You know, I leave this up to your discretion as to what you want to run on this stuff. I'll be honest with you. All of this stuff that's in here is relatively easy for general techs, engineers, people who want to learn this operating system to just do themselves. There's really nothing else in here that's, I don't know, you know, gonna help. I guess for the sake of people that are maybe kids that don't have any interest at all in computer systems or how they work, this is helpful. But if you are young and you're trying to learn this stuff, this is actually worse, because what you're doing is you're removing your ability to teach yourself how to do all of these things yourself without using these options that don't exist anywhere except for in here. So, I mean, yeah, it's cool from an ease of access, a console. It's developed. And it does work, you know. Cheers to the guy who set it up. It does work, but I just don't see the point in it. Again, typically these types of systems aren't really designed for somebody like me. They're designed for people that are starting out, or people who just want to game and can't be bothered with this stuff. And the idea of this channel is more to teach you how to do this stuff yourself, and also to teach you how to, you know, specifically what you're running when you run these operating systems. With that said, there's nothing wrong with this. All this does is it runs a script in the background for a wget to actually pull the data back, and then there's scripts that exist inside of the actual cache location for how to do these tweaks. So basically just batch or PowerShell configurations. It's pretty standard stuff. It's really not terrible. They put a nice little pretty picture here for you to click on and hit numbers and do things. You could use it or not use it. It doesn't really make any difference. It's not a security risk because the whole operating system is a security risk. So in reality, you know, you running something from this and not knowing what it's doing is a security risk. And even if I say, oh, it's not a security risk based off of the configurations that I see in this particular operating system, in 3 days it could be updated and I would have no way to tell. So I can't tell you whether or not it is good or not. I can tell you that everything that's in here, you could do yourself. You don't have to use this to do it. Okay, so we tested the Ghost Loader. It does work. Let's move on. Let's do the installation of our software. So we're going to go through the list just like we did on our X-Lite system. I will install Notepad++ first because it's small. Great, done. You're going to install Steam. Can install FreeOffice. Just for the record, none of these things are sponsored. These are just particular things that I would run on a normal desktop that, you know, needed access to do certain things for a home user. So one thing about this channel to keep in mind is that even if I do get asked to do sponsorship, or sponsorships, if their products are garbage, I'm not going to do that. I would never put my tenure, my skill set, or my ability to do this stuff at risk. I would never put myself in a position where I was liable for suggesting software that was junk. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, we have a product that we want you to represent, We want you to do a video on it. We want to pay you for it. And the product's junk or garbage, you'll never see it on this channel. So with that said, I'm going to click on Finish. That finishes the installation of FreeOffice. FreeOffice, check it out. Works for business, works for home. If it's home, you got to register. They'll send you a key. If it's business, it's not free, but it's not as expensive as Microsoft Office. It just doesn't come with anything to plug in, so you could use it for like an Outlook replacement. But for like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, works perfectly fine. Okay, so we already have our Firefox installer that was run. So let's install our Epic installer for our Epic games. Okay, so Epic's installed. That runs. So something I do want to point out is I had just mentioned that I don't put software on here that I wouldn't run myself, that I wouldn't put people in the wrong direction or lead them in the wrong direction. This particular application is not something I would recommend you run. However, it is the easiest for me to download and install just for the sake of running the tests. And also, it does have the most streamlined, I guess, automated versions of update process in it, which makes it a little easier. And because it's such a hot mess, it does exist on all of the Nessus data streams and flows, as far as like if there's a vulnerability or something that would pop up, it's going to pop up from that application. And specifically what this application is called is Adobe Reader. Now, keep in mind that Adobe Reader in versions like 8 and prior were like 40 megs or 20 megs or 3 megs to install. And they read PDF files, and they did a really good job reading PDF files. But if you fast forward now to 2024, this installed is just shy of a gig. It does exactly the same, and it's just garbage. When you call up their support, it's terrible. It's expensive to buy their pro versions of the application. It's just not a very good company anymore, and I would stand clear of the Adobe Acrobat Reader. The only reason it exists on this list is because, again, it's easier for me to install on the particular system. It's the quickest for me to install because I could get the installer. And it's going to show up on all our Nessus scans as a vulnerability because it's constantly a vulnerability. There are so many problems in the development of that application that it's basically a backdoor for your Windows. So for the sake of this particular system, since we're running the scans and it's a known vulnerability, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to install it. And if we need to whitelist it on our Nessus scans in the future, then we'll do that. But for the sake of this particular machine, again, just to show ease of use, access, and application support, that's the whole point of this. But I would tell you right now that if you're an older person like myself and you work in an office and older people are working there, this is the application they've gotten used to. If, however, you're in an office where everybody's just out of college, they're younger, I would run Foxit. I wouldn't run this junk. Or I'd run Phantom PDF. Or if you could afford it, Kofax PDF, which is something I would tell you to buy versus the Adobe Pro because it's a third of the price. It's software-based, so you don't have to deal with all that cloud disaster. And the support is actually helpful and not terrible. The support for them is absolutely god-awful, and their products are super expensive. So if you value your time and your sanity, you would stay clear of the Adobe products. That said, let's get this disaster installed on this machine. Okay, so Adobe is finished as far as the reader is concerned. So let's click Finish to exit out of there. So now we have a bunch of software installed. Let's do a reboot real quick. When we get them back up, we'll start double clicking on things to see if they actually function. Okay, so we're back up and running at this point. Let's start to open some applications and see if they work. So Adobe works. Steam is clearly updating. So it appears that Steam works. We don't have any issues accessing Steam. Steam was able to download, and that application works. So the first thing I want to do here before we move on to the next application to see if the rest of the apps work is to go to the taskbar, right-click, choose Task Manager, and click on Startup. And under Startup, we're going to disable the Epic Game Launcher, disable the Steam Launcher, and disable Adobe Reader. And the reason why is because I don't need those things starting with Windows. I know how to double click an icon in order to get the application to open. So all this does is it adds to the overhead of the system and adds to crap that runs in the background. And background services kill performance. So if you have a machine, that's a really simple task to do, is to go into startup and disable anything that's not a driver and your antivirus. Okay, so we have now tested Firefox. We'll close out of that. We have tested Adobe. We've launched Steam. Can launch the Epic gaming profile here. So that works. We can open up our free Office application. And that works. So everything appears to work. Okay guys, so let's take a look to see if Windows updates will actually function on this system. But before we do that, let's just jump into our command line here. Specifically what we're going to do is we're going to go into our customization that we wrote, scripts. We're going to find our Windows Update Enable, and we're going to run this as admin. Great. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to go to Settings, Update and Security. There we go. Windows updates are functioning on this particular operating system. Or at least for the most part. Probably have one here that we're going to have to update after we update the rest of them and then reboot the system to run the rest of the updates. So at least it appears that the updates work on the Go system. They do not work on the X Lite system. Now with that said, it's possible that what we'll have to do is reinstall the system at some point without the Defender on it and attempt this again. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you guys would be interested in seeing. As it sits right now, though, it appears that at least this system would be functional from a day-to-day use as a day-to-day operating system. Although it doesn't really give you any of the storage constraint or size limitation. It also doesn't give you the same frilly, nice configuration that you find in the Ghost 20H2 or in the X Lite system. And it's no smaller of a footprint on performance from like a CPU and memory allocation than, say, just your base configuration, your Windows 10 system vanilla version would be. Quite frankly, I think at this point, if you have a choice between running this, the X Lite version of Windows 10, or the configuration, pre-configured Windows 10 system that you would build yourself, just a vanilla system, the vanilla system would give you the most functionality. The vanilla system, as from a size perspective, is going to be about 10 gigs larger in required drive space. From a security perspective, without having to jump through any hoops, it's going to be the most secure out of the three. And from the functionality standpoint and being able to maintain a secure operating system to use on a day-to-day basis, you'd be better off with the vanilla box. Now, with that said, that changes when we start talking about Windows 11. With Windows 11, the X Lite version of Windows 11 is actually relatively the same as your Windows 11 out-of-the-box configuration would be. And it does offer and bring to the table some niceties, which are, the ability to run the operating system with less requirements to run it, as well as they fixed the menu system in the X Lite system, so it's far less annoying and obnoxious as just your base Windows 11 out-of-the-box system is. So I'm looking forward to getting some new systems installed this week and running some new scans. We have the new latest edition of Tenable uploaded. Our Nessus scanner has the latest patch revisions now applied to it with some new functionalities as far as policy scans are concerned. I'm interested in seeing specifically how that looks when we start to scan our additional systems. And we may circle back on some of these other systems and take a look to see if the new configuration, the latest policy updates on that system show any additional issues or vulnerabilities on these homebrew systems now that we have our latest update package or policy configuration on our Nessus system. So hopefully you guys are enjoying these series, and I will keep them rolling if you guys keep watching them. Thanks again. You guys take care.